We're going to get started shortly. First, we're going to kind of walk you through what to expect through our session tonight. So we have a couple of things that we do on our Meet the Teams. For tonight, because it is Valentine's month, we decided that we would do a romance edition. So, keeping the romance alive during pregnancy and afterwards is really important. And so we have some great speakers to share their tips and tricks. We will have a Q&A. So if you have questions and you want to ask during that time, or if you would like to use the chat to put your questions, that would also be wonderful. Please use the chat to introduce yourself if you haven't already. Thank you for those of you who have. After our workshop part of our session, we do have an opportunity to break out into breakout rooms so that you can meet some of our team. So this is not recorded. This is just chats that you are able to get to know our doulas, and they can introduce themselves. Part of being a doula is to be a guide. So you don't have to worry about, what am I supposed to say during this time? Or, am I supposed to have certain questions? Nope. It's just about having some individual time with some team members so you can get a sense of what we're all about. So if you would like to participate in that part of our session today, if you could let me know in the chat, and then I will set up those breakout rooms for afterwards when we're done our little discussion. So our first speaker tonight is a special guest. So Dr. Samantha Waxman is here. She is a registered clinical and health psychologist, certified in perinatal mental health, which is so important. We think kind of after baby, but it's the whole experience. It's the fertility journey, it's the pregnancy, it's after baby, and then after that too, because we go through lots of different stages as parents. And she offers individual and couples therapy as well as families. So, you're welcome to reach out to her. But we have had her as a guest speaker before and was fabulous and learned so much. And so we thought that maybe she would come and join us and talk to us about romance and relationships. And so we're so happy to have you here, Samantha.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back again. So I will say that there's probably less romance in this and maybe more the reality of what it looks like. So I don't want to sound too bleak, but what I will say is that people talk a lot about, you take a prenatal class and you learn how to kind of change the diaper and you talk about the birth process, but we don't often pay attention to what happens to our relationship. That's the piece that tends to be the most neglected. So that's one of the things that I talk a lot about with clients in my work. And when I give talks like this, I think it's such an important thing to highlight. We could go to the next slide, actually. So why is it so important? So 67% of couples who have a baby will experience a significant change in their happiness, their satisfaction levels in their relationship. And that can last up to 3 years postpartum. And then if you had another child in there, you're kind of, the relationship can be strained for that time. So about 2/3 of all couples will experience that significant decline. The important piece of that, I think, is to remember that 1/3 of couples don't experience that decline. And so a lot of what we know about, couples therapy in this period of time, we get from that 1/3. We know what to do and what not to do based on what we've seen in the data. A big piece of it is trying to get ahead of it. So if you wait until you've had a baby and now you can't stand looking at your partner anymore, it's going to be a little bit harder than if you were addressing some of these things prior to having the baby. So a lot of the stuff that I share with you tonight, you could start to implement now if you haven't had the baby, and it's never too late. You can always be doing these things, but it is a really difficult transition period. And so just recognizing that small little changes that you can do consistently are going to go a really long way in the postpartum period in terms of your relationship. We can go to the next slide. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was just to speak the right love language to your partner. So if lots of people have heard of love languages before, it's kind of been used in, the media pretty freely, but it's basically this idea that there are 5 ways that you can experience love. So if you wanted to do that quiz, that was the link there, which you can access, just Google it, 5 love languages. And basically what it is you do the quiz, your partner does the quiz, and you find out what your main ways of experiencing love are. Where the conflict exists, I find, is that, let's say my love language is physical touch. I would really love a hug when I'm, stressed or upset. And my partner wants to buy me my favorite chocolate bar. That's a miss. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand how we receive love and how our partner receives love. And you want to give your partner the love the way that they feel the most loved. So the 5 different ways that you can experience love with these love languages. So one is words of affirmation. So whether it's empathizing with your partner, listening really well, encouraging words, you're doing such a great job. I can't believe how amazing of a parent you've become. That would go a really long way for someone who likes those words of affirmation. Physical touch, it doesn't have to be sexual, but it's some version of nonverbal connection. A pat on the back when you walk by, a hug, a massage, holding hands, anything that shows that kind of physical connection. Gifts, when I say this one, people usually are like, oh no, I don't need like diamond rings. And that's not what it's referring to. I think it's those like thoughtful little gifts, like you went out and found my favorite chocolate bar. Shows that you've been thinking about the person and that you understand them. Quality time would be uninterrupted time where you do things one-on-one. This is like a no cell phone kind of idea where you're actually just connecting with each other. And then acts of service would be doing something for your partner. Could be folding the laundry, getting the tires changed, something that demonstrates that you understand what the relationship needs, and you do that through what you're doing. Typically, what I have found is when I've worked with heterosexual couples, I often will see the male partner will do acts of service because that's often how they often feel love. And so it ends up being a miss. And so they're doing all kinds of really wonderful things. It's just not landing in the same way with their partner because it's not necessarily how their partner experiences love. Typically, I see often in heterosexual relationships, it's the female partner wants to be told, like, you're really doing an amazing job. And he's like changing the tires. So there's a bit of a miss there. And so that's something that we can address by understanding how we like to feel loved and how our partner likes to feel loved. We can go to the next one. So small things often, you can actually move one more. So basically the idea with small things often is it doesn't have to be about big, grand gestures. What we're trying to do is do small things consistently that show our partner that we're thinking about them and that we care about them. So that helps to build that satisfaction in the relationship. It really makes you aware of the relationship and it increases your communication with your partner. So some examples would be, if your partner wakes up before you and is making themselves a cup of coffee, that person also makes you a cup of coffee. If they notice that the laundry hasn't been folded, maybe they fold the laundry. So those are small gestures that you could do. Out of curiosity, if anyone in the chat wants to throw out ideas of small things that they either have done or would like to do for their partner that they think would be ways to kind of show those small gestures. Anyone have any other ideas? Maybe if people have great ideas, we can steal them. Doing the dishes. Yes. Especially if your partner doesn't like doing the dishes and you do them that day, or they had a rough day and they're just like, oh, and you do it, especially without being asked. Yep. That's a great one. Anyone else have any other ideas? While you're thinking, oh, having a delicious snack left out for them. Ooh, that is lovely. Yep. Very thoughtful. Yeah. I know you're going to be hungry after a long day, and I know this is your favorite thing to eat. And so here you go. That would go a long way for a lot of people. So when you think about your relationship, I want you to try to imagine it like it's a bank account. So we talk about it as an emotional bank account. And in order for your relationship to remain in the black, it takes 5 positive deposits for every 1 negative. So you actually have to do a lot of investing into your relationship to balance out any of the negative things that might happen. So every time you make a delicious snack, every time you do the dishes, those are all deposits into that emotional bank account. And you're essentially building a buffer for the rainy day of stress that's going to come into your life. So keep in mind, it's not a one-to-one. You really need to be putting in a lot of those small positive gestures to keep that emotional bank account in the black. Now I can go to the next slide. Okay, another way that you could do this is through what we call the 3 A's. It's a really cutesy way of remembering, so that way you won't forget. So this would be admiration, appreciation, and affection. So when I was talking about at the beginning that 67% of couples experience that relationship decline and 33% don't, the 33% who don't really do these 3 A's pretty consistently. So if you think about how many times, or you think about a moment when your partner noticed something that you had done, like the dishes, and then thanked you for it, and how great it feels when someone appreciates the things that you're actually doing. It feels amazing, and it probably makes you want to do the same for them. So with these 3 A's, those are all ways to add to that emotional bank account. So things like saying please and thank you. I know when I get thanked for doing something that, like I feel like I'm supposed to do it, it feels much, much better. Accepting and giving compliments. I find this is probably not as common as it could be. Hugging, holding hands, touching, kissing. The last 2 I really like. Speaking positively about your partner, especially in front of the kids. So if you're sort of modeling this behavior, the idea of sharing something that you think is really amazing about this person, you're teaching that to your kids. And that's a really wonderful lesson for them to learn about how to interact with others. And the other one there is catching your partner doing something you like and telling them. So it's trying to take these ordinary moments that often go kind of unnoticed or unacknowledged and really spotlighting them. And it feels so much better. And this is the same with kids, that if you want a behavior repeated, you acknowledge it. It's like, thank you for putting on your shoes. And then they're much more likely to put their shoes on again the next time. We're not that sophisticated as grownups. We kind of like the same things that we did as kids. We want to be praised in some way for the things that we do. So keep in mind, if you feel like there's been a bit of a drought or an imbalance in that bank account, this is a really wonderful way to start balancing it out. You can go to the next one. So I was telling you different ways that you could kind of buffer a little bit, some of those preventative things, some of those things that you could be doing to try to help the relationship. But if there are problems that need to be addressed, we want to be able to do that in a way that's not so destructive. So if we go to the next slide, there's 2 types of problems that exist in every relationship. Every relationship has perpetual problems and solvable problems. Perpetual problems make up the majority of the problems in relationships. And I think people are sort of not pleased when I say that, because these are problems that really are never going away entirely, because these problems come from who we are as people and what we've brought to the relationship. And it's not because of something to do with the relationship itself. So for example, if you are a person who likes to save for a rainy day, you grew up with money stress, and it's really important to you to have that financial buffer, and your partner wants to live in the moment and have fun and go on a yacht, that's going to be something that exists in your relationship, a problem that exists. And you may be able to find a bit of wiggle room there, but it's probably inherent differences in who you are as people. So that's something to think about. The part that we can deal with are called solvable problems. And solvable problems make up about 30% of the problems in a relationship. And these are things that you can just, as the word says, you can solve them. So for example, who is going to pick up the child from daycare once the parental leave is over? That's a solvable problem. There is a solution that we can eventually come to. We may not totally love the solutions available to us, but it is a problem that we can absolutely solve. So when you're trying to solve those problems, I want you to think about a few things. When you go into a conversation, The way you start the conversation is going to predict how that conversation is going to go. I think it's like 94, 95% of the time, if the conversation starts off negative, it's going to end negative. So if you come barreling in, you need to be the one who picks up the child from daycare. It's so irresponsible of you to make blah, 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 blah. If you start the conversation that way, it's probably not going to be a very productive conversation. And there's going to be a lot of hurtful things said and tension that exists. So you want to think about how you approach bringing up an issue that you need to solve. So timing is the tone of the conversation is one thing, how you address it. And then timing is another one. So if you're exhausted, if you're hungry, if it's been a really long day, maybe not trying to solve a problem at that time. Many of the problems that people are trying to solve do not need to be solved in that particular moment. They're not crises. They're just things that need to be addressed. So you can shelf it and you can come back to it later. I know lots of people that I work with have a real hard time sitting with some of these issues. They just want to deal with it in that moment. But every time they do that, it ends badly. The conversation doesn't go very well. So think about, when you bring it up, how you bring it up, and sort of what problems we're ultimately trying to solve. And is there actually a solution to those? So I have one sort of strategy for you to try, which is on the next slide, which is called learning to yield. So this is what you can do when you have a solvable problem that you're trying to solve. That non-negotiable looks huge on this slide, and I would say it should be much, much, much smaller. So what you would want to do is you and your partner can basically make a diagram that looks like this. You want a center circle that's really small. That is your non-negotiable. This is the thing I will not budge on. And then everything else goes around it. Those are the things I'm willing to budge on. So think about it like I've got to give a little to get a little. So if you were going to do this exercise with your partner, I would say pick an issue, daycare pickup, go to separate rooms and write down what would go in that non-negotiable part. What am I willing to compromise on? What am I not willing to compromise on? And then what am I willing to compromise on goes around that. Then you come back together. When you come back together, I think one of the goals is you're trying to understand your partner's perspective. Why was this piece in the middle so important to that person? You kind of want to honor that part a little bit. You don't want to tell them that that's a ridiculous idea, that's so stupid. You want to help me understand why that part felt so important to you. Because I think by showing openness and understanding, it's going to help the rest of the conversation go well. So each person can explore that piece. And then you want to look to figure out, where do we actually agree? Where's the overlap? Do we feel the same way about this issue? Is there any sort of common goals that we have here that we could address? So then you start to figure out a solution based on that. Many couples can solve problems without having to do this exercise. But if you feel like there's an issue that we're really struggling with, I feel like this is a really good way to do it. We both feel heard. We both get to express the things that are important to us. And it allows us to do that, hopefully in a manner in which we feel a little less charged. We've had time to think. So that's an interesting exercise that you can ultimately try. So those are my few tips for the relationship. Not really romantic, although I guess the affection piece was. But if that's your love language, then absolutely, some romance sounds delightful. And if it's not, and your love language is, checking the gas in the car, then do that. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Samantha, thank you so much. And, it's funny, you say that it's not really romantic, but the thing is that it all does work into romance. Like when we're stressed out, intense, not feeling connected to our partners because we're stressed out about things, then that's what is going to roll into everything else. Like you're not going to want to be intimate even outside of big intimacy.
I say to people all the time, like foreplay is from like the minute you wake up till the minute you go to bed. Like that whole thing is foreplay. So you get out of bed and that coffee is waiting for you. You send, hope you have a great day today, foreplay. All of that is foreplay, all of it. So not to minimize the efforts, like doing the dishes might be like such a turn on for somebody, right?
I know they have those funny memes about that, right? Like, if somebody wants to get some action, do the dishes or make dinner or go grocery shopping, because it's all of those things that take mental and physical energy. And so, when you're able to take care of those things, then all of a sudden we want to be closer to our partners.
Yes, exactly. So yes, you're right. There was some romance in there.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, thank you so much, Samantha. That was
Thank you.
awesome. And now we are going to introduce the next team member who we are excited to introduce. So Sharon Clements is a postpartum doula on our team. And most of the all of the families that have received support from her say that her support comes from the heart, and babies feel that. She's just so excited to spend time with those little ones. She's been called an angel by many sleepless parents who finally get a good night's rest, knowing Sharon is watching over the baby. So yeah, take it away and share a little bit on romance.
Well, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is our Valentine's week, so it was a little apropos to have this talk this week. So I would just like to kind of go through some of the do's and don'ts, or things that really do happen after baby comes. And you know, there is really a difference between love and romance, and because you can love your mom, you can love your kids, you can love your dog, but romance is in a little bit different category. So you know, this is the time that we're thinking about hearts and flowers, dinners out, strawberries in bed, and snuggles under the blanket in front of a fire. Those are all great if we can do it. But while we're pregnant and postpartum, those might just be nice memories. We got to hold on to those happy thoughts for a little bit. So it really doesn't matter how romantic your relationship was before the baby. Your number one enemy, I feel, is exhaustion. And I think this is the biggest point of being a postpartum doula that I think the families are never prepared for, is just how tiring it is after baby comes. And both you guys are so tired and you're feeding a lot, and it really does cut into the quality time that you might have had before baby came. So just be prepared for that. Hormones are raging, and you know, birth parent, your body's changing, you're sore, you're tender, and sometimes erogenous zones that were all for fun are you know, out of the picture for a little bit. They're not the most important thing. So like Samantha said, here's a few things that I think will keep the flames burning without you know, being what they were maybe before baby. And that one thing is to plan your date nights. So don't just, the spontaneity isn't always there. That you can just on a whim go for coffee, go for dinner where you want to go for dinner or stuff. You have to really plan your dates, have a babysitter, have your mom, have your doula, whoever that you trust with your baby. And it's so, so important to take that hour or 2 hours to connect with your partner, just one-on-one. Spend the time to talk to them like you used to. Ask them what's going on in their day. Find out let them know what's going on in your day. Like Samantha said, holding hands. One of the best dates is just going for a coffee. Just go for a coffee somewhere and hold hands across the table, and, you know, look in that love look in your eyes, and just letting your partner know that, you know, you still really, really care about them, and that things will be changing a little bit in the future. Like Samantha said too, the love talk. So always being kind and praising your partner, and accepting the praise they give. A lot of times the birth partner doesn't really feel sexy or pretty, or, you know, don't feel like the same way as they did before. But studies have shown that that's not the way the support partner feels. Support partners find the pregnant body, the postpartum body, so sexy and so beautiful. And when they try and tell us that, we think they're lying or we poo-poo it away. So we have to learn to just accept the beautiful words that your partner's saying, and know that they still love you more than ever, because you are now the mom of the baby. Another one would be, like we said, snuggles, touches, connecting as much as possible, just watching your movies together, or, PVR something, because when you've got a baby, you're probably not going to get to finish any shows, but be able to snuggle under a blanket and just touching, just that rubbing somebody's shoulders, rubbing somebody's leg, just that communication through, the body language to say, I still want to be right there beside you. So that's a good one. Birth partner, some of the things that the support partner might want to do to really get some brownie points here is making a nice bath for the birth partner, warm towels, a little bit of bath oil, like all those indulgences that just make that person feel special. So that can go a really long way. Birth partners, they love a mani-pedi or hair treatment, a few hours to leave the house. That's really empowering for them to feel like they are back on track and desirable and feeling pretty, and just getting away from the house and away from the baby really starts to make them feel like they're getting back on track. So those are some little things that you can do. Walking, holding hands, rubbing shoulders. Those are all things that any love language tells you that you're connected. We always want to stay connected, and just those little things, when you go for a walk in the mall and just hold hands, or, chat about whatever, but it's just the touch. The power of touch is amazing. So what are we saying here? Small ways to make support partners feel appreciated. Again, Samantha said, and this is so important, so important, is to acknowledge that things are different now, and appreciate that your partner is going through a lot of changes too, the support partner. They're doing their best to try and help out, to learn their new role as a parent. And so we just need to make sure, along with everything else, that we are keeping our eyes open for things that they are doing to make an effort, and acknowledging it, saying the words out loud, not just thinking it, oh, that was nice, he made the bed, like actually speaking those words and acknowledging what they do. The partners, they are sometimes as exhausted as the birth parent, although we might not think that, but a lot of the support parents are exhausted more from stress. They don't have control, and stress can be a real bummer at this point in the relationship, because you're both tired, and stress just compounds that. So, they have a lot of fears about caring for you, caring for the baby, making sure they're doing a good job. Am I being a good partner? What more can I do? So we really need to acknowledge to them as well that they are doing a good job. And, before they know it, we'll be back to our old intimate selves. The perfect way, perfect way of adding is to let them know that you care for them, and little goofy things like Samantha said, just their favorite chocolate bar. But I find little sticky notes is goofy stuff, but just a little sticky note on the bathroom mirror, so that when one of you guys turns on the lights and and just you see, oh my God, look what he put there, or look what she put there, or putting it in his, you know, on the car steering wheel. So he gets outside and it's like, oh my God, look, she made the effort to come out and stick this on the steering wheel. Isn't that cute? And little things like that, just saying those words, showing them that you care. Little quick text messages through the day to the other partner, and just saying like, I miss you. I hope you're having a good day. You know, can't wait to see you when I get home. And you know, that goes a long way, because this is the time that you really, both of you need to acknowledge the other one is making an effort and that you're both just as tired. If you can do little things that maybe weren't expected, you know, we sort of expect them to do the dishes, or we sort of expect them to maybe pitch into laundry, but really noticing, oh my God, look, he even, you know, tidied up the, you know, the cupboard that was a mess, or, oh, look, she helped, you know, she fixed the desk, or she started the taxes for me. Oh my God, isn't that great? Like there's so many little ways that show your significant other that you guys are in this together, and you know, you have to stay connected. That's the whole thing, and letting them know they're appreciated. Meals are great. Snacks, bringing snacks to the other partner, having a cup of tea. You know, bedside is great. Different things like pet care, siblings. These are all things that make the other partner, if this has traditionally been your role, and the other partner picks up the pieces for a little while, just acknowledging that you appreciate the things that they're doing and not sort of expecting it. And, you know, that goes a long way too. So, you know, I've had families that I've gone to where the biggest stress for the birth parent was that nobody'd walk the dog in a week. You know, so just sometimes little things like that, they just go such a long way. So doing those things. Constant reassurance from the support partner to know that the birth partner's hormones are going crazy, and they really do need a lot of reassurance that, you know, that romance is still there. It's going to be back in a romantic way, but in the meantime, the romance is shown in a bit of a different way, with just the time you spend together, and just like I say, mentioning things as you're going along, and communicating, really keeping in touch with each other. Won't be long before, you know, you'll be able to get back to some active romance, but in the meantime, enjoy your times together. Enjoy your little one. This is a whole learning curve for all of you, and it takes some time, and be patient with each other is the biggest thing. Love each other and appreciate this time, because you'll turn around and the little one will be big, and you'll be wondering, oh my gosh, what happened? So just take this time and be kind to each other, love each other, and have a wonderful Valentine week. And that's me. Thanks, everybody.
Trying to unmute myself, having trouble. Thank you so much for sharing that information. I know that at the dollar store, you can find some cute little Post-it notes that are maybe happy faces or hearts, but Post-it notes are really nice, and emails, text messages throughout the day, especially when partners end up going back to work. So you're there for a little bit, and then like you're home for a couple weeks, some have even longer off, and then all of a sudden you're back out of the house all day, and it's hard to be away from your people. So you know, phone calls, but even just the cute little text messages back and forth, and pictures of baby, those, it's all about keeping that connection as much as you can. So thank you so much for sharing that. So I've set up a couple of breakout rooms. Before we do that, does anybody have any questions about anything that Samantha covered, anything that Sharon talked about? No? All right. Well, this is my favorite part. I like to call it doula speed dating. But actually, this is where our our doulas get a chance to meet with some of you in a more intimate setting in breakout rooms. So I believe everyone who is here would like to stay for that. So I think I've set up most of them, but I might need another moment or two to get that arranged. If you are sent to a breakout room and you don't have a doula in there right away, please hang in there. They're coming. They're just running down the hall to get there. No, really, it's just me trying to figure things out in the background. So after your breakout rooms, feel free to ask any questions of us at the office. And again, thank you so much for joining us on this Friday, not Friday, I wish it was Friday, February evening. And I'm gonna set up these rooms. Just give me one more